Hello and welcome everybody, it's TheJWittz here with another Pokemon trading card game online video. Now today we have a deck that's sort of similar to one that we did a little recently, that's Night March. You've still got the Night March pieces, the Joltix, the Lampins, and the Pumpkaboos. Those are the three Pokemon with Night March. It's the attack that gets more and more powerful the more Night March Pokemon that you can throw into the discard pile. But we are also teaming it up with a pair of Eeveelutions now. We've got Eevee, this is the Furious's Eevee with the beautiful Energy Evolution attack. Allows it to evolve instantly, even if it's the turn that you put it down if you attach the correct basic energy to the type of the Eevees. We only run grass, and I'll explain why in a second. But the big pair is Flareon. Flareon's Vengeance attack for a single double colorless energy deals 10 more damage for each Pokemon in your discard pile. So you're already discarding a bunch of Pokemon with Battle Compressor. It allows Flareon to maybe sweep in the end game, knocking out EXs for a single energy, but otherwise it two-shots a lot of things, and it's just in general great against things that are weak to fire, like Virizion Genesect, like the Metal decks. And you've also got Leafeon, not quite as impressive. Energy Crush does 20 damage times the amount of energy attached to all of your opponent's Pokemon, so it's not just the opposing, but in general Leafeon is there just to help you survive against Seismitoad EX. It has an okay 100 hit points, but the 20 resistance to water attacks is huge, and you also have Seismitoad's grass weakness. So overall, I think this deck is a lot better than your typical Night March. It gives you a couple more options, just more attackers in general. I like attacking with Flareon much more than I like attacking with Mew. For one, Flareon does not give up 2 prize cards. Also, Flareon doesn't really require that you have all that Psychic Stadium stuff in play. Just needs a double or 2 basic energy attachments. So the idea with this deck, aside from the Jirachi EX, which is just there to help you get supporters and maintain some consistency, is to take down decks specifically geared with all of those EX Pokemon, while you run no EXs of your own, aside from Jirachi. So otherwise, just taking a look at the deck's engine, it's pretty simple. For Battle Compressor, again, searches your deck, discards cards straight out of your deck. You use this to discard Night March pieces. Lampin's always first because you can never play it. You're often attacking with Joltik just for a double colorless. You don't run the Psychic Stadium anymore, so Pumpkaboo won't be used as often. Although I will attest that you can use Pumpkaboo. The fighting resistance allows it to sometimes survive a Donphan hit. I did that earlier, and that was great. So Pumpkaboo can even attack too for a double and a basic energy attachment. Town map you've got in here so that you can see your prize cards if there are valuable Night March pieces in there, or in general, just other valuable prize information. It's the standard supporter line. I run like 4 N in every deck, 4 Juniper in every deck, even 4 Lysander in every deck, 2 VS Seeker, just to recycle each of those supporters. I like 3 Bicycle in here right now. You could run more supporters, maybe like Colress or something like that. Additional VS Seekers. Bicycle is sort of a nice speed card, helps streamline your deck. I feel like you have small hand sizes, so playing Bicycle, drawing until you have 4 cards in your hand, while also not being the supporter that you play for the turn, is actually really, really nice. 4 double colorless energy, obviously, because Joltik loves double colorless, because Flareon loves double colorless. Even the, oh yeah, Audino, we didn't talk about him. Audino can retreat on a double colorless, or hilariously hit bump with it. Audino is actually only in this deck so that you can discard it. You would never want to actually hit bump, that would be really bad. The ability Busybody allows you to discard it from your hand, heal 10 damage, and a special condition from your active Pokemon. The big reason I've got Audino in here is to wake up. If someone hits you with a Hypnotoxic Laser, they hit heads, you hit tails, you're still asleep, that's terrible. You can drop Audino, you can even search Audino with an Ultra Ball, to discard from your hand and wake up something, usually an Eeveelution. Is it a perfect solution? No, but it does help you in other strange scenarios. Hypnotoxic Laser just might leave you poisoned and you want to get rid of poison. Yeah, you do risk starting with Audino, but you run so many other basic Pokemon that it isn't as big of a liability as it is in other decks. For the Ace spec, I decided on Dowsing Machine. Computer Search also works very well in here, but in general, I think you want one of the Ace specs that discards 2 cards from your hand. I like Dowsing Machine because there are some really nice combos. You can play a Battle Compressor, then Dowsing Machine for another Battle Compressor, and all of a sudden with 2 cards, you have 6 or even more Night March Pokemon in the discard pile. So that's nice. The Silver Bangle's there. I only run Silver Bangle because if they aren't an EX Pokemon, normally you'd run something like Muscle Band to beef up your damage. If they aren't an EX Pokemon, chances are pretty high you can knock them out. It is not hard to deal like 120 or less damage with Joltik, or even Flareon, who's only getting 10 more damage for any Pokemon in the discard pile. So you run Silver Bangle just to help you against EXs. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple deck. Mr. Mime is here so that your Joltiks don't get knocked out on the bench from bench damage. But it's a lot of fun. You're going to be attacking with this guy a lot, and this guy a lot, but I've got a few games to show you guys. We're going to do 2 to show you the power of each of these Eeveelutions and why they're helpful to this deck. Help it beat some things that otherwise standard Night March might have a little bit more trouble with. Alright, so we are starting a game immediately. I hit record just a little bit late in this game, but we are going first off of the coin flip. I get to choose between Pumpkaboo and Joltik. It's not great. Joltik attacks more easily. Pumpkaboo needs an extra energy. But I often hate starting Joltik because it gets knocked out so easily. It's really easy for your opponent to deal 30 damage on turn 1, a little bit harder for 60, so I decide to throw out Pumpkaboo. Ends up not being the greatest choice ever because I'm playing a deck that's almost entirely Psychic resistant. Meanwhile, my Joltik was resistant to Metal, so it didn't work out the best, but it's still not terrible. Battle Compressor discards 3 Night March pieces straight from my deck into the discard pile. 2 more into the discard pile of this Juniper because they were in hand. Goodbye, Audino. Probably won't need you. Won't be facing off against special conditions anytime soon. We have another basic if for some reason we get knocked down turn 1, but overall, not a bad start. Even though this isn't the ideal matchup, at least for Pumpkaboo, we have a double colorless ready to go. We can attach it and start dealing Night March damage next turn, and we have 5 Night March pieces in the discard pile, so that's 100 damage. So our opponent, clearing out hand, getting Bronzor to play, and Sycamore. They have Muscle Band on the Bronzor, so they can deal 30 damage to my Pumpkaboo. Got a very pretty Cobalion on the bench. What we do not see, which is great, is Aegislash-EX. That is this deck's almost public enemy number 1. It prevents any damage done with Pokemon that have special energy attached to them. You rely very heavily on double colorless energy in this deck, so the longer we don't see an Aegislash-EX, the better. We run plenty of Lysander and ways to recycle Lysander and get those Pokemon up, but for now, as long as we don't see it, we can knock out some EXs, we can get a lot of stuff going. So now I've got a replacement Joltik. If Pumpkaboo gets knocked out, another Battle Compressor. Unfortunately, beginning to realize we have some absolutely horrible prizes. Normally you get maybe like 1 or 2 Night March pieces into your prizes. We've got a whole bunch. Not great. So usually with Battle Compressor, once I'm out of 2 Pokemon, I try and look for another Pokemon that maybe I won't be using to discard, or just a card that I'm not really going to need in this matchup. Leafeon, I'm on the fence with. It's like, well, Leafeon does perhaps deal great damage at the end game if they have a lot of energy attached. I figure, okay, I can afford 1 Leafeon here, though. We'll have another that we can pull out of the deck if we have to, using Eevee's ability. Flareon's the big Pokemon in this matchup, because aside from the Aegislash-EX that blocks you, everything else is weak to fire, and that's where Flareon's really going to shine. So we've got a Cobalion EX staring us right down. Not too much of a problem, because even if it does knock out this Pumpkaboo, we've got new things to back it up. Unfortunately, though, I lose that Silver Bangle. Really helpful against Cobalion, giving either my Pokemon an additional 30 damage, because they're going to face off against an EX. So immediately we check the discard pile. How many Night Marchers do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 8! Which isn't terrible, but not quite enough to get a knockout with Joltik. Would need that additional Bangle. But we do have a Solid on the discard pile and a Flareon already that we can evolve to. Where all we really need is a double colorless energy, and we've probably got this knockout. So right away, I'm going to play that Town Map card. Allows you to see your prizes. Helpful in this matchup. Oh, look at that. Tripling up. 3 Night March pieces in there. I need just 1 more to hit the discard pile so that my Joltik can start knocking out EXs even without the Silver Bangle. And even though I do like Eevee, I can grab another Eevee off the Ultra Ball. Discarding an Eevee. I'm emptying my hand so that I can draw a full 4 cards off this bicycle. Pros and cons here. Pro, we did get the double colorless energy, that's why we emptied the whole hand. Con, we did not get an additional supporter card. We didn't even play a supporter, so it would have been really great to get one to draw. Supporter or Versus Seeker would have been nice. But counting all those Pokemon inside of the discard pile, Weaken Vengeance for an easy knockout, 260 damage when multiplied by the Fire Weakness. And I decided to grab a double colorless energy to guarantee that Joltik can get one. And he does have the Silver Bangle now, which is great. And a backup Joltik, even if that Joltik falls. So we do have an interesting scenario here. They promote the Keldeo EX has free retreat with the Float Stone. They could attach a double colorless energy from hand, retreat Keldeo, use Bronzong's ability to attach a metal from the discard pile to it, and then use Keldeo's Rush-In ability to come back into the active, knock me out with Secret Sword for 50 times 2 with Water Weakness. So we do see the double colorless. Thankfully, nothing else. They probably... it's already a really rough situation for my opponent. Seems like they're having a supporter drought, a Bronzong drought, and with all of those things, this is going to get gross. So I checked the amount of Pokemon in the discard pile. I do not have enough to knock them out with Flareon. There's no Fire Weakness on the Keldeo EX, but even though we're discarding a double colorless here, it's well worth it because I can just pop up Joltik, Night March, Knockout. 190 damage after that Silver Bangle, which we did need. And I can grab another Compressor if for some reason cards get shuffled back into my deck, like an end of one. I can discard straight out. Nope, they just tackle for nothing. Ugh. My opponent did not have a great hand, didn't see many supporters, never got the Bronzong. But there, you guys can see, this deck has some serious power, and if you have even just one Pokemon that's weak to the Flareon, like a Virizion Genesect or some of these metal decks, it is really, really good. Flareon can still knock out just about any EX in the late game, but it can even do it in the early and mid game if they're fire weak. So this is a pretty short game, gave you guys sort of a taste of how the Flareon works in this deck. Let's flip it over to another game where I can show you guys what the Leafeon does. Alright, so we are underway. I flip, and it's not my decision. Looks like my opponent has decided to go first. I mulligan, so shuffle back in. Opponent can draw an extra card. Ooh. Joltik and Audino. This is so gross. The question is, do I want Audino as a punching bag, but then it has 2 retreat costs, so I have to stick it there, or do I risk Joltik? This isn't necessarily the smartest plan. You guys saw last game I decided to not start Joltik, but sometimes I figure, okay, well, we're in a weird enough spot. Let's go ahead and try it out. My opponent's going first, which means the only way they can guaranteed knock out Joltik is if they have Verbank, City Gym, alongside a Hypnotoxic Laser. Unfortunately, I flip over, my opponent reveals Seismitoad EXs, which means they very well could have Verbank City and Hypnotoxic Laser. Instead, it looks like we've got kind of a gimmick Seismitoad EX build with Magnezones so that you can use multiple supporters at a time. So right off the bat, this Joltik is going to be fodder, it's just going to get knocked out. But I do have an Ultra Ball, which means that I can get a really nice combo going with these new Eevees. So with Ultra Ball, I can discard 2 other cards from my hand. In the end, it doesn't really matter, I think I'm just going to Juniper here. The idea is, Seismitoad EX can Quaking Punch and deny you using item cards from your hand. This deck uses a lot of item cards, so I'm going to try and draw as many cards possible. Use all the item cards before I get locked out for the rest of the game. So with Energy Evolution, when you attach a basic energy to Eevee, you can search your deck for an evolution of that type and evolve immediately on the first turn. So I've got myself a Leafeon, and that is a really, really important Seismitoad counter. I figured might as well load up another Joltik since it can attack for now, and we can Ultra Ball, discarding those 2 Lampents. Want to play as many items as possible. Get another Eevee down. Now all I need is another Grass, and that thing's ready to go. So we pass to my opponent. And that Energy Crush attack is so good. It's not like an automatic knockout, it usually isn't, but it is a fairly realistic 2-hit knockout. So they Quaking Punch, knock me out. Don't play any supporters or items or anything like that, and this is actually a really good situation for me. It was a little fortunate for me that my opponent decided to attach to the bench Seismitoad EX. I think the best way to play against Leafeon is just having a double colorless energy Seismitoad, But hey, I'm not complaining. Attach a grass, another energy evolution, and boom, I have my 2 Leafeon ready to go. And that's what's so great, is you don't need to play any item cards, you don't need to play like an Ultra Ball to get one ready to go. You can just attach a grass energy to Eevee, and that gets one online. So we see Crushing Hammer. This could be bad with my hand. Oh no, they hit it, I lose my energy. So that's one thing that you do have to deal with. That's why we've run 5 instead of 4. I used to run 4. Kyle Pukasukovic convinced me on the 5th. Oh, even grosser, they hit Super Scoop Up. They can pick up that Seismitoad EX with 160 damage on it and drop it back down. Again, they opt to attach on the bench, which powers up my Energy Crush. Energy Crush does more damage based on all of your opponent's energy, not just the Seismitoad EX or whoever you're facing. So they do evolve now to Magnezone. They've got all kinds of combos, but at the end of the day, as you guys saw, Quaking Punch only did 10 damage to Leafeon. It's water resistant, and it has Seismitoad's weakness, so it's just a really great Seismitoad counter that can keep you in these games, allow you to take some hits for long enough. Hopefully, if a single Leafeon, even if it takes 2 attacks, 3 attacks, if a single Leafeon can knock out a Seismitoad, then you are in the money. So another Crushing Hammer, another Heads. I'm all out of energy, but their N saved me completely, and oh my goodness, they just attached a 3rd double colorless energy. So we're maybe not playing like the perfect plays from our opponent, but just wanted to give you guys an idea of what the Leafeon can do when you're facing Seismitoad. So here, yes, we are going to get the unbelievable 240 damage knockout. But as you guys can see, unless that Seismitoad gets a Muscle Band, and maybe an additional like Verbank City, Hypnotoxic Laser, they really aren't dealing enough damage to run through Leafeons. Yes, they can discard your energy, but it's usually enough to keep your games competitive. Yeah, they can play multiple supporters in one turn. You can play 2 with the Magnezone. Team Flare Grunt is a guaranteed discard, they don't have to flip anymore. But I can keep replacing, I ended up getting a pretty generous hand. Now, I'm not gonna say this is the most exciting game ever. I think we can just flip to the end here, but you guys get the picture. The Seismitoad keeps attacking for 10 damage at a time, while I can just attach and Energy Crush and just keep doing that. The damage output is there, the prize trade-off is there. You guys really aren't missing anything here. But in the end, I do want to thank you guys for watching today's video. I showed the Night March deck earlier and kind of talked about it as sort of a gimmick deck. I feel like this is actually a much better version of it. I've really enjoyed both playing with the Eeveelutions while also still attacking with Joltik. It's ridiculous having a 30 HP attacker still, but this is a fun deck. It's really streamlined, it's easy to set up, and it has a few less weaknesses than the original Night March deck does. As always, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video. You can click the subscribe button to get alerts when each of my new videos are coming out. I try and get Pokemon trading card game videos up each Tuesday, and you can click the video above the subscribe button to check out the last TCG Tuesday video that we did. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys next time with the next TCG Tuesday.